2025 M4 Max Mac Studio with 16 CPU cores, 64 gigabytes of RAM, and a terabyte of internal storage. It comes with the power cord, thankfully, but I was promised an accessory kit. I don't understand what accessory kit is in this context. The kit implies things, not thing. It only comes with one thing, the power cord. It doesn't even come with Apple stickers because they stopped doing that. I suppose there is paperwork in the box, you know, the thing that used to have the Apple sticker in it, so I guess they are calling that an accessory. To have an accessory kit, you need two things, and there's only two things in the box, unless the box itself is an accessory. A lot of regular people do save their Apple boxes for no good reason. Maybe they are counting it as an accessory. So the accessory kit is the power cord and the box. The box is like a carrying case for the Mac Studio because it has a cloth handle. At this point, I'm glad they included the Mac Studio. I paid Apple amounts of money for this computer and did not opt for more than a terabyte of internal storage because as much as I want 4 terabytes internally on my computer, that's what I would like to have, I'm not gonna pay Apple 100,000 pennies for that upgrade. That's just wrong. I could buy 5 4 terabyte internal SSDs that are very fast for that price. Yeah, 5 times 234 is not 1,000. Did I mention that I had to pay almost 4 terabytes of SSD worth of money just to get an extra 512 gigabytes of SSD on my Mac? Huh. It's almost like this is a giant scam. But I guess if it didn't start at 512 gigabytes, Apple would have $200 less of my money, and they wouldn't get $200 more of my money. Because that's obviously why they still have a $2,000 computer start at 512 gigabytes to squeeze as much money as possible out of the person buying it. And speaking of that, why do I have 64 gigabytes of RAM? Well, now that's a story. A story of how they get you to spend more money. You see, I wanted more RAM than the base 32 gigabytes because I'm planning on having this computer for a very long time. And unlike the internal storage, which is potentially upgradable, the RAM is not. So I wanted to get more RAM. And to get more RAM, I needed a faster CPU. Because unless you click on the faster CPU, all the RAM upgrade options are grayed out. And yes, there's technical reasons as to why they do this. Yes, binning and whatnot. But also, it's just convenient that if you want more RAM in your Mac Studio, you have to upgrade your CPU, which costs money. But when you click on it and it says it costs more money, it's actually more money than it says it costs because it automatically selects 48 gigabytes when you upgrade your CPU. And would you look at that? 64 gigabytes is available. Only $200 more? So that's why I have 64 gigabytes of RAM on my computer. And yes, because I wanted to upgrade it once and, well, it's only $200 more. That's how they get you. And they got me because this is my computer that I wanted. I bought it on purpose. And I know it sounds like I'm making fun of it, and I guess I am, but it's funny and it's also true. So it's also kind of sad. But what am I going to do? Buy a PC? Hey, look, there I am. I've got my setup Shower 69,000 here with a GoPro and a camera. So that way you can see the wide angle view and then the closer upper camera angular view. Yes. Got the Mac Studio with a Mac Mini shell on top of it. That's just there so when the Mac Studio gets hot, it doesn't cook my audio interface because cooking it would be bad because I need that. And you may notice what appears to be an amplifier directly underneath my main monitor. Oh, what is this? iNova? That's for my 100,000 subscriber video that I know is late. But that's one of the most expensive iPod docks ever made. And what is this? Could that be a vacuum tube? 1999 mouse pad with a G502 Hero that has a wear mark the exact shape of my thumb. You've got a 2003 Apple keyboard, my Stream Decks, some other stuff like a CalDigit Thunderbolt dock and SD card readers. The MacBook Pro. When I'm recording, I shut the MacBook Pro without it falling off my desk, and then I'm able to see a view of what my camera sees. M1 MacBook Pro right here. That's the computer that this Mac Studio is replacing, except I didn't realize I was still going to be using it in my setup. But once I realized how great Apple's universal control is, where you can control different computers with the same keyboard and mouse, or iPads, it ended up that the MacBook re-added itself to my setup. It's an entirely different computer, and I'm controlling it as if it's the same computer, and it doesn't even feel any different when I'm using a keyboard and mouse that is physically connected to a different computer. The way I'll use it will evolve over time, but since I can control it as if it's the same computer, I can get away with not installing everything on my Mac Studio and reserving some apps only to the laptop, like Discord or other similar things that don't need to be hogging up the CPU just running in the background. Even though I don't need to worry about that with such a fast computer, I can, so I will. And there's only two things plugged into the laptop, the Time Machine backup drive and the charger. So I can take it and use it as a laptop whenever I want. And I really couldn't before because I have so many external hard drives and so much stuff always running and rendering. I just never used my laptop as a laptop. Pretty much sat there closed in what they call clamshell mode ever since I got it. So not only did I buy a Mac Studio, I also bought a laptop. What about using the Mac Studio? How fast is it? The main demanding thing I do on it is video editing. I know, another video where some guy talks about video editing on his new Mac. Those aren't everywhere. But I'm coming from the M1, the first Apple Silicon, to this. This is what you call skimming the timeline. The M4 Max is much better at doing this. Once you turn on the multicam viewer, it's really apparent. These are real-world comparisons relevant to me personally because this M1 MacBook Pro has edited all the videos I've released up until this point. Now let's do an export test. I duplicated this project to the internal drives of both computers. We're being as fair as possible here. I'm even starting it first on the MacBook Pro. Progress bars are apparently meaningless. Both computers successfully exported the project at under 50% completed for some reason. It took almost 3 times longer on the MacBook Pro to export the exact same project. Different versions of Final Cut Pro, but it's close enough. Obviously, the MacBook Pro would lose no matter what. It has half the amount of cores after all, and saying half the cores isn't really right either because of performance cores and efficiency cores. Each computer has 4 efficiency cores, but the Mac Studio has 3 times more performance cores, so it actually has better than twice the amount of cores. And GPU cores, it's not even close. And currently, the Mac Studio is using 32 gigs of RAM, and if that isn't proof I was pushing my M1 MacBook Pro past its limit, I don't know what is. I needed more dedicated RAM. No more 60 to 70% memory pressure with it almost always having 20 gigs in swap memory. I don't need my Mac constantly writing data to the internal drive when, if that internal drive dies, I cannot boot it from an external drive because Apple will brick your Mac if the internal drive dies. That's a true story. Yay! I'm still trying to find my Mac Studio accessory kit. Where is it? Something that stands out to me that this Mac Studio does much faster is actually quitting apps. I use Keyboard Maestro, and it has a built-in application switcher that's better than the one Apple has built in, where you can close a bunch of apps at once, but it only closes it when you release the keyboard shortcut. That's a nice-to-have thing, but it means I usually am quitting a bunch of apps at the exact same moment in time. The first time I did that, I was surprised by how quickly they all vanished. But apart from that, using the computer for regular things, it's not that much different. I have been pretty frustrated with the brand new Mac Studio, and that is not because of the Mac Studio, that is because of brand new Mac OS versions and how they just keep getting less good. The computer I'm coming from, my MacBook, is still on Ventura because I detest upgrading Mac OS because it keeps getting less good. Mac OS Sonoma, which is the one that's before now and in between the one I've been using, is the first Mac OS version that I haven't used while it was the current version since I've known what a Mac was. This goes back to at least Snow Leopard in 2009 when that was the current version and I was 6 years old. So I've been using Mac OS for a long time and using every current version for a long time. And lately, I just detest upgrading. Not only because it breaks things, that's normal for someone that's has all these Final Cut Pro plugins and whatnot. It's just because they keep adding things that make macOS annoying to use. For instance, I'm recording this microphone into my computer, and for some reason Apple thought it was a good idea to have a giant orange indicator when your microphone's being used. Sure, I approve of that for normal people, but I can't disable that in system settings or via a terminal command. I can't get rid of it. And I know that's such a small thing, but the fact that you can't get rid of it, why? And that wouldn't bother me, but it's a normal thing for some Mac apps to require screen recording permissions for things other than screen recording, like clicking user interface elements. So whenever I'm using those applications, the screen recording indicator will just show up for 0.5 seconds every few seconds. It's pretty distracting. You get used to it, but as someone that enters lots of terminal commands to fix macOS, it irritates me that I can't enter a terminal command to get rid of that. What idiot thought it was a good idea to put a caps lock indicator underneath what you're typing? I'm pretty sure I'd realize I was typing in all caps. Thank you very much. Thankfully, you can disable that. Even though I don't use the caps lock key as a caps lock key, I use it as a hyper key, which it presses all the modifier keys at once, essentially giving you an extra modifier key. I still disable it because the fact that it exists is just wrong, and I didn't know about it until right now, even though it's been a thing for a while, since I didn't upgrade my macOS version. And calling it an upgrade at this point is, well, wrong. I can't wait for Liquid Glass. The in-your-face indicators are a very small thing, and I'm making a big deal about them here because, well, they're new to me, and they're new-ish when it comes to things I disable in macOS. There's plenty of things I've been disabling for a very long time, like all the transparency nonsense they have. I don't know about you, but to me, tinted Finder windows are ridiculous, and the natural scrolling that Apple has enabled by default, scrolling upside down, enabled by default since 2011. One of the other things about skipping macOS Sonoma and using Ventura for the last few years has been I haven't experienced Apple Intelligence at all until the Mac Studio. So that's fun. I tried it first, I left it enabled, but I disabled it because it got to be annoying, and also some of the things I'm pretty sure I can't disable no matter what, like the auto math. Even though there's a setting that appears that you can disable it in the preferences, it doesn't. I have tried all the things, disabling the preferences, even disabling Apple Intelligence, turning it off entirely, and pesky auto math is still there. It wouldn't be so bad, but you physically can't put an equal sign and press the space bar. Even the return key autofills it. You can't press your right arrow key to get it to go away, but if you heard of this little thing called muscle memory, a lifetime of typing, and now I'm supposed to press the right arrow key after I put an equal sign in. Gee, that's a great idea. Sometimes I type math incorrectly on purpose, like when I'm making this video. For instance, when I'm using Apple math instead of actual math, like 2000 plus 300 equals 2500. That's Apple math, but Apple's trying to correct me and actually autofill the right answer, even though Apple's own math disagrees with that. All I'm saying is, it's okay that that's on by default, but why can't I disable it? And if I can, someone please tell me how, because I've been searching forever and I can't figure it out. So my biggest complaint about the Mac Studio is macOS. Not that I'd ever switch to anything else, because we are in the Apple ecosystem here. I just wish I had a little more customization and didn't have to resort to tiny icon view, because the default is like it's designed for an 85-year-old person, and there's no in-between. And when I got my Mac Studio, I chose to set it up completely from scratch, so I didn't transfer any settings or apps from the MacBook Pro. I downloaded and changed everything as it occurred to me, and a lot of stuff has occurred to me, and I kind of forgot some of the things I had changed were not the defaults, and I was like, wow, this is really the default? How do people live? I won't go into a 45-minute rant about why I don't like the changes. It's not even just macOS, it's everywhere. Like, they've taken inspiration from old people phones. This is not an old people phone. It is an old phone, but just remember, when phones were small, they somehow fit all that information on there. And when phones got big, they just upped the text size and didn't really take advantage of that space. And now they're applying that same philosophy to our computers, except the monitors aren't getting bigger, they're just displaying less information. And I'm having to scroll, such as on YouTube, for 3 times as long to get the same amount of videos in the feed. So my complaint isn't even the Liquid Ass interface, although I do think it is quite terrible, which is why I call it Liquid Ass. The short and sweet of it is, I think rounded rectangles look good, but not when they're circles. Thank you guys so much for watching, and a special big thanks to all the members that have joined within the last week. If you want to support me and help make my videos possible, and so they can keep on coming, become a supporter on YouTube or Patreon today. There's a supporter-only Discord and a member video for each video I post for everyone. And this week, it's a setup tour slash talking to you about why I was gone for so long. Mostly a setup tour, though. That's like 70% of the video.